Hey team, welcome to the For You Friday. We have a group of exercises to work on, both strength and mobility, recovery, and in your training session, the meat and potatoes of it, surrounding hip flexion and hip extension. If you don't know what those terms mean, you flex your hips, hip flexion, when you bend down to touch your toes when standing. Hip extension is when you extend and open the hip, standing tall. So that's your sports science lesson in those terms. Tennis is almost entirely hip flexion. And you'll see why after this. I'll show you a picture right here. Here's Monfils displaying a classic ready position and return of serve. This is hip flexion and so much of what tennis players live in. Tennis has a lot of overuse injuries. Tennis elbow, little straps around the elbow, knee pain, strap around the knees, just overall inflammation, shoulder pain, hip pain. Chronic pain is not normal. If you just have pain all the time, it's either you're doing too much too soon, you're doing too much of the same, a combination of 1, 2, and 3, which is your fitness routine, your rehab routine is not sufficient. It's not addressing why your body's beat up and what you need to change. Now, a lot of tennis and no fitness or focus on rehab or fixing those things, a lot of tennis without doing that is going to beat your body down. So take a look at these clips and how aggressive these positions are that you have to get to. So here's Kakanakis at Indian Wells. Look at this freeze frame I'm about to show you. Look how low he gets. Bang, that's hip flexion, okay? Let's see some more hip flexion and how aggressive it is when he gets into it, stretching for a ball. Look at this freeze frame. He's bent over. Guys, the hip gets destroyed and beat down relentlessly during points of tennis. And as one of the few tennis coaches out there that has an extensive background in strength and conditioning as well, in general, in the strength and conditioning sports science field, we want to make you more robust as an athlete. We want to make you fitter, healthier, freer in your movement. So a lot of the time that strategy is taking you out of what you do so much of, remember, overuse injuries, and giving you what you don't train or what you don't have. So a really simple way of thinking about this is what you already do on court for tens of thousands of balls over and over again, week to week. Do the opposite of those movements. So in tennis, it's so much hip flexion that you need to train more of your hip extension in the weight room in your fitness sessions. All right, guys, so here it is. This is hip extension. Look at this yellow line. The hip is extended, imaginary line through the spine, through the thigh. Now here's hip flexion. He was trying to get into that stretch. Again, showing you this hip flexion. So this stretch is so awesome. You can see he's really tight. He's struggling to get out of hip flexion to get hip extension. So I elevated that back foot, knee on a pad. I'm telling him to drive his quad down into the floor to get that hip to open up, bring that pocket forward by driving the knee down. His quad stretch was lighting up. Combine that stretch now with this isometric position, great for building quad tendon density. You can see the back leg, that's the one that's extended, obviously. The front leg was in hip flexion. So there's the stretch, there's the isometric. Now here is a strength-based movement where that back leg is getting into hip extension. I would actually like him to get more hip extension. I would try to have him maybe puff out his chest, look up a little bit, and get that quad stretch in that hip flexor, that pocket area. So here's a really good one that I like to do, floating that back knee. I'm in an isometric, but I'm using this elbow movement to kind of open and extend the hip more back. Then I'm laterally flexing the spine to get even more mobility and practice extending that hip in a demanding position that's an isometric, or for more relaxed, you could go down to the knee. So I showed you like bare minimum, guys. I showed you a mobility movement, a stretch to do passively with the back foot up, driving the knee down, getting that quad to stretch. I guarantee you, if you have some kind of low back pain, this will start to help it. Not fix it, but it'll really start to help it. Okay, so that's the stretch, the mobility aspect. Then that isometrics in general will literally eliminate tendonitis pain. 30 seconds, 45, 60 seconds, into 2 minutes, like holding a position. That will help to build the density of your tendon, which will just make the position better. You'll get better at the position. You'll get stronger. You'll have more leg endurance to go longer on court. Then there's the strength movement. Obviously, building strength is going to not only make you a better tennis player and mover, but longevity-wise, like if you have more muscle, you live longer. Let's just face it. We all know that. That's a whole other topic of research. But you have the mobility, the stretch, you have the isometric, and then the third one, that strength movement. So try these out. I guarantee you it's going to start to help.